Okay, yeah, we'll just start straight up and say, why did you get into politics?
Yeah, it's a good question because I think people always want to know the background story to a politician. And I got involved in politics basically in high school. I received an interest in high school. I was concerned, I was in Ontario during the 1990s when Mike Harris was in power, was concerned in the classroom that the politics was creeping into other subjects in economics and sciences, and we were being told about this political stuff that was going on rather than learning the material at hand. And I think that was part of what happened in the 1990s. It's what drew me into politics. I think I went in the opposite direction of many of my teachers at the time, but certainly that's where my interest in politics started, and certainly it never really stopped. So I continued on at university, and now I'm the MPP for Cambridge.
How did you get into politics with the party?
Yeah, in the 1990s, I started university in 1998. I went to McMaster University, and it was actually the first week when they have those clubs that you sign up for, and we were circulating, and I ended up at the PC club at McMaster, and that's actually how I started being involved in party politics. I signed up for the club in my university days. I ended up leading the club during my undergrad, and still was participating in grad school when I went to do my master's at the University of Guelph and came back to McMaster. Then I got involved at the riding association level. I've also been involved I worked at the PC party probably about 10 years ago, and I've worked on leadership campaigns. So there was a lot of experience, breadth locally and nationally and provincially that drew me in, and certainly I had the bug and was willing to put in the long hours as a volunteer and work on campaigns. So I just sort of proceeded from there.
And did they come to you about running?
Yeah, it was an evolution of running here locally. Certainly, I thought that at some point in my life I was going to do it. I never thought I would do it this early, so it wasn't really something that I had planned. It sort of evolved. There was a lot of people who wanted to support me as a candidate, and that sort of pushed me in the right direction. I had talked to a lot of people, certainly Gary Goodyear, my federal MP, who I've worked for and with for the last number of years, encouraged it. And I still believe that it's basically the people around you that help you get to where you are, and I'm very grateful for the volunteers that I have.
Yeah. So you're talking about you have this background of political involvement, but how is your background? You're an educator as well. How has that prepared you for your life in politics?
Yeah, so I have a PhD in political science. I was a university professor. Some of the things that you do as a university prof, you do as a politician as well. So you need to be a good communicator. You have to be very good at public speaking. You have to be able to listen and understand the concerns of your students, much like I'm listening and understanding the concerns of my constituents. I was a public policy PhD, so I talk about public policy all the time, and this is what you do in this job. So there was a lot of, I guess, transferable skills that you have as a professor and as an educator that you bring to this job, because in many ways it's similar. The obvious difference is, A, you're at Queen's Park and you're talking to 106 of your colleagues, but also the very public nature of the job, and that's something that took a while to get used to.
Yeah. Now, your role in politics, how would you explain that to somebody who maybe doesn't understand the inner workings of government?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's like going to work and you have 140,000 bosses, and you know that when you have that many bosses, they're not all going to agree. And obviously those 140,000 people, in my case, are the voters and the residents of Cambridge and North Dumfries. So they're not all going to agree. People are going to agree with you, but some aren't. And you're going to hear both sides. And so it's about trying to balance what you hear given the reality of the gig.
How would you explain your role as an MPP to somebody who maybe doesn't understand the inner workings of the government?
Right. It's going to, I equate it to going to work, but instead of going to work and reporting to one boss, you're reporting to 140,000. And you know that those 140,000 people, in my case, voters, aren't going to agree on everything that you do. Some are going to disagree pretty vehemently, and they're going to maybe even protest out front of my office. But some are going to agree. You're going to hear both sides. It's about trying to understand that balance and where to go and understanding the right mix in terms of what you do. So you have to really stay true to, I think, what you believe in, because people are ultimately going to vote for you based on who you are and what your beliefs are. And so you have to stay true to them and understand that. That's just sort of the general, lines of authority, if you will. But it gets a lot more complicated in terms of what we do in the office, my constituency office, and what I do at Queen's Park, which are really two different things. Certainly at Queen's Park, there's a lot of stakeholders that we meet. I happen to have been appointed as the critic for training colleges and universities in the Tim Hudak Shadow Cabinet, and very proud to have that portfolio. So I'm meeting lots of stakeholders with respect to that. But here locally, we're dealing with concerns about everyday Ontarians with respect to what they do and deal with their government. So they have an issue with the government, they're going to come see their MPP. They're going to hope that we're going to solve their issues. And so there's two different things at play there, and certainly going to lots of events and ribbon cuttings and that sort of stuff is part of the job too.
So that sounds like it was, probably an eye-opener story for people who don't really know what you do. But for you, what has been the biggest eye-opener since you got involved in provincial politics?
The biggest eye-opener is the length of the day. You wake up really early in the morning. You have to be up to speed on everything because you never know who's going to ask you a question on what's going on or what's in the news. So you have to be on top of things. And it's the late nights as well. What for me took the longest to get used to, two things really, is the public nature of it. Everyone has an opinion and they're not afraid to share it oftentimes. The other thing too is the time away from family, which is a huge time away. I used to be a prof where I was home all the time when I needed to be, and now my duties take me all over the place. And I have two young boys and a wife at home that I miss a lot when I'm at Queen's Park, and certainly it's part of the job that takes a lot of getting used to. It's not easy.
How do you keep your your professional life from encroaching on the things you like to do in your personal life?
Yeah, very hard. It's about setting limits, though. For example, one of the things I like to do is on Friday afternoons pick up my oldest son from school. And so to the greatest extent possible, on Friday nights I like to spend home with my family, particularly when I have had a long week. So it's about setting those limits and not encroaching on them. And having staff that understand those limits as well, I think, is very important, because they're going to make sure that the time that I've set aside for myself and my family is protected. I think that's very important to have as well. Otherwise, a lot of the stuff we do, almost everything becomes an event. Every time you go to a restaurant or go shopping, you have to look reasonably good and be willing to talk to a constituent that happens to come up to you. I remember having 15 minutes one afternoon where I thought, well, I'll have a late lunch, and I went down to a coffee shop downtown in the Galt area of Cambridge, and I sat down, and no sooner did I finish tweeting, hey, I have 15 minutes to spend on myself, that a constituent sat right across from me and asked me about an issue that he was having. So it is a very, like I said, it's a public job. People want access to their representatives. We have to provide that as their representatives. I'm happy to do that. But setting those limits too, to make sure that I spend the time with my family that I need to.
How often do you get recognized when you're out?
I'm a new politician, so it's not, I don't think I'm as recognizable yet in terms of my face. People probably recognize my name more than they do my face, but I was at the gas station last week, and the person came up and was like, hey Rob, how's it going? Thanks for coming to our gas station and just up the road here. So some of that thing takes you for surprise sometimes, because people are actually starting to notice you, which is a good thing. I think that's important in this job.
How engaged do you feel the average Ontarian or even Canadian is with politics?
I mean, I guess the question is variable, depending on if there's an issue, I think that touches the heart, and I can talk about the childcare issue here locally in Cambridge and the Waterloo region. That touched a lot of parents in a way that was very intimate, and certainly with respect to a parent and the relationship with their kids and wanting the best situation for their kids, because when a parent's not there, they want an environment where their kid can be nurtured to a standard that they would appreciate. That touched a lot of parents in a way I think politics doesn't do very often. But because of that, they got involved, and perhaps they weren't involved before. So I think when issues touch people, it has, excuse me, an ability to draw people in. If you don't have that issue, it becomes a little harder. One of the things I noticed during the campaign is the only way I could truly reach people and truly get them to understand who I was as a politician was knocking on their door, asking them to take a minute or 2 minutes out of their busy schedules so that I could have some face-to-face time with them to ask them to vote for me. I thought that was a very successful way of trying to touch people who are busy. They have work long hours, and when they come home they want to spend with their kids, and if their kids are in organized activities, they're probably shuttling them in and out of the house at varying hours of the day. So people are very busy. I realize that politics probably isn't the top of their priority as it is for me. So it's about trying to reach them in new and interesting ways. And so we're using social media, we're using Facebook, we're using the internet, we're using telephone town halls to try and get people informed about the issues and to let them know that we're working on their behalf.
Do you see a lot of engagement with these techniques, newer techniques like social media? Do you see those as being successful with maybe the younger voters who might not be as engaged in politics as the older voters who were maybe more aware of the issues?
Yeah, I think there's generally a trend. I mean, certainly if you look at some statistics in terms of largest growth and who's using social media, older people are starting to do that more. But younger people, it's become part of what they do every day. They go to their Facebook page, they're on their Twitter reading a variety of people. So that, I think, segment is growing. I think it's growing in a segment of voters that probably haven't traditionally associated with the PC party, which is important for myself as a younger MPP, the second youngest in my caucus by 2 months. I think it's important to have that connection, and certainly it's about building that team and that following of support that hopefully will transcend generations. And so we're working in this office to try and get into schools, for example, and talk to students about politics. Not just about, I don't want to talk about me, I want to talk to them about politics. And it's important for them to be involved, whether they're going to be supporters of the PC party or another party, but I think it's important for young people to get involved. And certainly that's a message that I send everywhere I go, certainly as a professor and now as an MPP.
What role does social media play in your life personally?
It's very important, I would say. I'm always on the Facebook, Twitter feeds. I just started LinkedIn. YouTube is part of what we do in my office in terms of putting up footage of what I'm doing in the house, for example. So social media is pretty all-encompassing in this business. We've just launched a new website at robleonempp.com, which is going to be full of interactive aspects. I think the first contact people are going to have with my office is my website. So what we wanted to create with that website was a virtual office where they could do some of the things that they would do by calling here. Certainly we're getting lots of phone calls. Phone calls are still the most popular way of people to get in touch with us. But as we build the web presence, I think that the website's going to become much more important. People are going to be able to download their petitions, to invite me to events, to share their ideas, to voice their concerns. And really, I think the online thing is the way of the future, and we need to be there in a big way.
So that, I'm getting the impression, is something that you're doing because people's lives are so busy, and social media lets them approach you on their own time and their own terms, because you realize they have busy lives, and you yourself have a busy life. Maybe you could explain to me what an average day in Rob Leone's life is like, even outside the office.
Sure. Well, outside the office is almost inside the office these days. Almost everything we do has some relation to profession, if you will. I wake up early. I would divide the two, actually, from Queen's Park to here. Because when I'm at Queen's Park, I'm there. I have a place where I stay in Toronto. So I get up at 6:15 in the morning, and the alarm goes off, and you shut it off and hit the snooze button a couple times, as a lot of people do. But you get up, and my day starts basically there. Get ready to work, have a nice stroll to work, I walk to work, and I'm pretty much there until 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, depending on what's going on at Queen's Park and what meetings I have or what work I have to catch up on. So it's a very busy day, packed with meetings. We have assigned times where we have to sit in the legislature, so we're there. I'm there every day for question period. My House duty day, where I have to be there from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, is on Thursday. I also am on the Standing Committee of Estimates, which means that there's a committee that I'm involved in, which meets 3 or 4 times a week. So basically, from 9 o'clock to question period on Tuesdays, and from I guess 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Tuesdays. The same on Wednesdays. So those 2 times on Wednesdays as well. We're in committee, so there's a lot of work to be done with the committee. So it's very all-encompassing. We sit Monday to Thursday at Queen's Park. Constituency Day is always Friday. Now, when I'm here, I have some family responsibilities as well. I help my wife, Kate, with getting her kids ready to go to school or to wherever they're going that day. Usually it's school for my oldest. My youngest is only just less than a year old. So today, for example, I got up and I was responsible for taking the kids to my mom's house for the day. It's March break today. So we have those responsibilities. Like I say, on Fridays, I'd like to be home to pick up my son. So there's more family things that I do when I'm here, and then the rest of the day is my staff filling me up with meetings with constituents. We're doing lots of business tours. We have an outreach program that we're doing here with schools, with businesses, with community groups. So it's very busy, and it's a 7-day-a-week job. It really is. And we're always working, so to speak, whether we're even sitting at the couch or not, because we're on a BlackBerry checking the Twitters and what people are saying and so on. So we're always engaged, and we're always ready to work.
What piece of technology or pieces of technology do you rely on to get through your day?
My BlackBerry. I'm tied to it. I'm wedded to it. My wife thinks I'm married to it. So my BlackBerry is my essential device, whether it's emails, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, staying in contact with my staff who do a lot of great work on behalf of me in my office. It's the BlackBerry. I think I wouldn't be able to do the job as successfully, I don't think, without that technology. And it is the piece that I rely on most.
Just kind of shifting back to the political side here, what are some of the bigger problems facing Ontario and even Canada as a whole today, do you see?
The biggest problems are fiscal crisis. We have 2 problems, really. We have a fiscal crisis where we have mounting debts and deficits, and we have a jobs crisis. Those are the 2 things that we're struggling with. The downturn happened in 2008. This is 2012. We're still dealing with it, so we haven't come to grips with it. Our deficit in the province of Ontario this year is $16 billion. That's $2 billion more than it was last year. This is just not a sustainable path. We have a lot to do with respect to getting our fiscal house in order. And really, you asked earlier why I got involved in politics. And there was certainly a story behind how I got involved, but why I got involved with politics has to do with my kids. And my parents came to Canada in the 1960s. They moved half a world away to be able to provide a better life for their kids. I want to be able to make a similar sacrifice for mine, and that's why I got involved in politics. Certainly the role government plays in our lives has increased more and more. Some ask and question why that increase is necessary. But going back to this fiscal crisis, what we're doing with this fiscal crisis is making my kids and their kids pay for the largesse of today. And there's, I think, something very fundamentally wrong with that. We should be living within our means. We ask households and ordinary citizens to do that every day. Yet we have a government that continues to rack up billions upon billions of dollars debt every year. And the size of our debt has doubled in the last 8. Don Drummond, who released a financial picture last month, stated that on the current path we're going to double our debt again in 4 or 5. That's clearly not sustainable. We can't continue to do this. And one of the reasons why I got involved in politics is to say enough's enough. And I don't want my kids to face the burden. I don't want to be paying more than we receive in revenues in terms of expenditures to revenues, because my kids are going to be paying for that, and that's just wrong. $20,000 almost now as a per capita debt. That's $20,000. My son was born last May, before his first breath or his first diaper change that he incurred just by being a person in the province of Ontario. So no, that can't continue. It's not sustainable. That needs to be fixed. And certainly we have a jobs crisis. We lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs in the province of Ontario since 2008. No plan to get them back. And I think we need to work on that. We need lower taxes. We need to reduce regulation that hinders job growth. Energy prices are escalating at astronomical rates. We need a jobs plan that addresses all of those. We need a plan in my portfolio with training colleges and universities to get students who are getting great educations into the workforce, because they're paying lots of money for that. They're paying thousands upon thousands of dollars and incurring debt in order to position themselves for getting the great jobs of the future that simply aren't there. And we have to realign our priorities. I think those 2 areas, the fiscal side and the fiscal debt side and the job side, are certainly 2 areas where we need to address, and they are the problems I think that we are very much focused on here.
So realistically, what types of changes do you hope, or do you even think, again, realistically, that you and your government could affect?
Well, if we were in government, I think certainly we would have to take a look at what our priorities are. And certainly our priorities are in healthcare and education. We maintain that we need to make sure that those investments continue. On the healthcare side, the demographics merit it. On the education side, we know that good jobs require good education, so we understand that. But everything else, I think, is fair game in terms of what we need to do to restrain government spending. We talked about there's 720 agencies, boards, and commissions in the province of Ontario. Many people just don't know what they do. 720, we call them ABCs. You reconfigure letters in the alphabet and you can come up with one. We've never had a comprehensive review of what those agencies, boards, and commissions do. We have a feeling that there are some that probably aren't necessary anymore, some that are broken that need fixing, and some that are frankly doing what they're supposed to and doing a good job. But they need to review those things. We need to find some savings in other areas to be able to fund our commitments, because if we continue down this path, we're just not going to be able to sustain it. Now, if servicing our debt were a ministry, it would be the 3rd largest ministry in the province of Ontario after healthcare and education. Over $10 billion a year of our tax dollars are going to service a debt. It's not going to healthcare, it's not going to education. So getting that debt down and certainly not putting more on is essential in terms of trying to make sure that we maintain our commitments in those 2 priority areas.
So are you looking at a future where there's less government intervention and the province is able to kind of pull itself up by the bootstraps, or is it something that you think might require more government intervention to build the foundation to do that?
Certainly, my perspective, we're getting into a philosophical question here, I think, but I think governments shouldn't be involved in areas where the private sector, nonprofit sector can do a better job and do it effectively. It's certainly, in this office, we've been doing some outreach. We've talked to nonprofit groups who run balanced budgets. They can't run deficits. It's just not possible. They don't have the money to do it. So, and certainly private businesses, if they incur billions of dollars of deficits, they're no longer going to be in business. So there are those aspects where we have to get back to core principles. Spending no more than your well, less than you're making, hopefully, in revenues. So aligning those things and doing only things that governments should be providing. And that means setting priorities. And like I said, healthcare and education are certainly two of them. There are other things that obviously governments need to do. We need to have an honest discussion about it. I think everything has to be on the table, and work at it by consulting stakeholders, by consulting voters, and by being honest about what this province actually needs. And it's not going to be easy. It requires leadership. It requires actually growing a backbone strong enough to withstand the pressure that you're going to be under. And I would hope that if we were in government, and hopefully we will be after the next election, that we will have the fortitude to make those tough decisions, because we know it's what Ontario needs.
So if we look at the flip side, maybe, what are some areas where Ontario or Canada even excels?
It's a good question. I think certainly our biggest asset are our people. We have a strong workforce, multi-talented. We have a diverse population, certainly an asset as well. So our people are our greatest asset. They are what built this province, and hopefully they're the people that we're going to count on to rebuild this province. And it's those working class values, I think, that a lot of us brought up to. I mean, certainly my parents came to this country with a few skills. My father was a machinist, but working in good manufacturing jobs provided me an opportunity to go to school, provided me an opportunity to not only go to school for 1 degree, but for 3. So he certainly, those were the jobs that built this province, and it was the people who worked hard every day that made a difference. And I think we have to make sure that we nurture an environment where that is possible again. Certainly our young people are struggling. They're struggling with the burden of debt and taxes, and the cost of housing and taxes and food and energy going up as it has been over the last number of years. They're struggling. So we need to create an environment where we can have a prosperous society again. And I think that's the trick for government. But we have to make sure that we enable people to do what they are capable of doing. And I have great faith in our young people to make that leap and to meet the challenges that they face. And I hope that government doesn't hinder that possibility. And I think that's what I would argue. But our people are our greatest assets, and I think that they're going to make this province strong again.
Are there any challenges unique to your riding, or even just this area of Canada where it's the most populous in the country?
Well, I think, I don't know if it's unique. I think there's a lot of places like Cambridge and North Dumfries that are in a transition, an economy that was a manufacturing base. This is by and large a blue-collar town with strong manufacturing base. A lot of folks came from all over the world to work here in those jobs that are going away by the hundreds. And that's the unfortunate part of it. So it is a unique situation in the sense that not all parts of the country or province are the same in that sort of mix. But we're transitioning to a more skills-based, innovative economy locally that I think is going to be part of what a lot of other areas are going to do. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's unique, but that's certainly the challenge locally here. And how do we enable our workforce to transition? I think that's a question that is not easy to answer, and certainly we're going to work at fixing that. But that's what I would say in terms of what Cambridge is facing right now.
Is there any one sector you see maybe as being a driving force for economic growth?
Well, I would have to give a shout out to the education sector in terms of we just opened a Conestoga campus here in Cambridge, and I think that by and large where you're seeing pockets of bright pockets in Ontario, it's usually linked to the innovation coming from our colleges and universities. So there are I think the future is somewhere tied in the midst of that. I think there's a high-tech component to this economy that's changing as well. We have great companies here. RIM actually has a couple of buildings here. ComDev, which designs parts for space products and satellites. We have a good group of old economy and new economy here in Cambridge. So I think it's just finding that right mix. But more importantly, I think for what government should do is to provide that environment for businesses to succeed. Lower taxes, better regulation or less regulation, lower energy costs, and a highly trained workforce. And I think if we can provide that environment, Cambridge and North Dumfries as well, the whole province can succeed.
Shifting kind of back off of politics now, what is it that you like to do when the few hours a week it seems that maybe you're not at your job?
Wow. I think that, first of all, for recreation, I like to golf and I like to fish. And I fish all year round, so it's certainly something that I like to do. I like to take the barbecue for a little workout every now and then. So those are the sort of the things that I like to do. I'm certainly a fan of sports. I like to watch all of them, really. But soccer is certainly my favorite sport. I used to play it when I was in high school. So that is what I like to do in terms of my time. But mostly whatever I can do with my kids, I think, is what I like to do. We have a great pond with swans by my house that I like to walk to and air. And just playing in the park and watching my kids have fun certainly provides me with a great deal of pleasure. And listening to those shouts of joy is just something that you wish you can bottle for when you're not around and to take with you. So certainly spending time with my family would be the most important thing that I would do in my spare time, when I have it.
So acknowledging that fact, how much longer do you think you would stay in politics? Do you see this as a career or more as a job that might not be forever?
Well, I don't think anyone gets into politics thinking that's going to be a job forever. And certainly it is a job that you can only have with the support of your voters. So I don't want to sort of prejudge my fate with respect to what voters may say. I love my job. I love everything about it, even the quote-unquote bad parts. Overall, I think it's a great job. It's about sitting in that legislature, having a say in the future of the province of Ontario. It's a very special thing, and public service is something that my family, we believe in, and that I hope to continue for as long as I can. I don't think this is a short-term move for me. I hope it's, voters permitting, something where I could at least have some time to really make an influence and an impact. So we'll see how long it goes. I don't think I'm going to be in this forever. I'm only 33 years old, and I can't think of being 33 years from now, or 32 years. And when I turn 65, I don't think I'm still going to be in politics. So there are lots of opportunities, lots of time to do other things. Right now I'm focused on this job. I'm loving what I'm doing, and I hope that I can help my party and my leader, Tim Hudak, form the next government. And that's certainly what my goal is in the short term, and I'll work toward it.
So hypothetically, you get a 2-week vacation from your job starting tomorrow, and you can go anywhere you want. Outside of Ontario, where would you go?
2 weeks. So that's this never happens, but a 2-week vacation. First of all, I think one of the places where I want to take my kids is to Disney World. So Florida is certainly on our radar as a short-term place. My wife and I love Europe. We love Italy. That's where my parents were born, and certainly it's a place where I'd love to go back. My wife and I have been known to take a few Caribbean vacations in the past. We've been to Mexico and to Cuba. I wouldn't rule out a foray to the beach, although quite frankly this winter we've had a lot of sunshine and warmth here, minus the water and the pina coladas, I guess. But so there's that. We have places that we love, like Hawaii, that we want to go see and visit. So there's lots of things that we would do and they all come in time. But more or less, when we have some time off, we head off to my wife's family cottage in Point Clark, where we like to spend a lot of time too.
Is there anything you would do if you were out of the country that people might look at you and say, "Oh, he's a Canadian"?
I drink a lot of beer. Perhaps would be that. Everywhere you go, they if you're in the United States and you say "A" and they think you're Canadian, so I say that every once in a while as well. But I guess if it was winter, I'd be wearing a toque. What are these stereotypes? You know, we just have we have all these sorts of things, and yeah, I mean, I think that Canadians are pretty cosmopolitan and diverse, and we have lots of cultures that we see here. So I think going abroad is just a natural extension of life in Canada in many ways, other than sometimes it's not as well developed and so on. But you know, we have a richness in people here that's great. You know, in terms of different kinds of foods. And sometimes you can hear different people speaking different languages. So it's just a great place to be. It's a great place to live. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Are you a hockey fan?
I am.
Favorite team?
Oh, you know, you're going to get me in trouble in Leaf Nation here. I just don't know. I'm a Habs fan. Unfortunately, this year I'm a Habs fan. So we'll say that, and I'll take every dart that's thrown at my back for that. But sorry, Leaf Nation. You're not going to make the playoffs.
So if we venture outside of Cambridge still, where you're kind of a minor celebrity in Cambridge, people walk up to you, they recognize you, they talk to you, but we reverse the roles and you're in Florida or Los Angeles or anywhere, and you see a celebrity that you want to talk to. Who is it, and why do you want to talk to them?
Well, you know, I would probably want to, like I say, I'm a soccer fan, so if I was in LA, I'd probably want to see David Beckham. But, you know, I think soccer stars are sort of where I like to talk. I'm not a big celebrity guy. I don't watch the TMZs or read the People magazines. And partly that's because I kind of respect their private life, knowing that, you know, mine is somewhat public as well. So I don't really get too gaga over celebrities. But I would probably, if needed or necessary, gravitate to sports stars and athletes, and I respect what they do.
Is there anything else that I haven't touched on that maybe you'd like to put out there?
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to come visit me today. I'm very interested in looking at the publication, and that's probably, thank you.
That's good.